Big question of the day. Is Cosmos dead?
Um, People never die. People get recycled. It's actually it's
Good answer.
holding really well. I think Osmosis. I think Osmosis might have saved it. Osmosis almost killed it. Like at first, that's also was mistake because you had a lot of layers launch without capital formation, which enabled extracting liquidity via osmosis. So there was empty blockchains with no product. Like that big extraction was ongoing from weaker chains to Cosmos and so on, and that was really tragic. But osmosis went in the way and tried to build deep Bitcoin liquidity, and a lot of Bitcoin transactions gets routed via osmosis. In fact, osmosis beyond Ethereum and layer 2s, so when it comes to layer 1 blockchains, has the deepest Bitcoin liquidity. Osmosis has deeper Bitcoin liquidity than Solana by far. It's dangerous because it will be easy for Solana to build it, but there is solid volumes. So Cosmos, it's not that. It's in really difficult situation and it struggles to adapt to the changing meta, and it has too much of the word cells. I will show you something funny. It shows how Cosmos didn't adapt. I don't want to, but and I have to be bullish on Cosmos. That will be my personal bias because I decided to build an application on
Mm-hmm.
Cosmos, and so I have no choice that believe that it's gonna survive. But it's especially on Osmosis. I think Osmosis is finding its niche. Let me find what I wanted. It's so funny. For many will not be funny, but I find it incredibly funny. For anyone think I mean by doing this, it's all love. So this is some article of something about neutron. This is one article on the Twitter, and it just goes and goes. So you see, they keep writing these articles and like trying to explain. No one fucking read that.
Yeah, not anymore.
We need
Exactly.
the meta. Like it's 3 years ago, and it's like not to dunk on the project, but guys, you need to fire this guy. You need to you pay into a word cell that writes article that nobody reads nor cares, and every time you drop such article, it's only like bad for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's lack of being able to adapt.
Let's talk about Magma.
I still believe that one of the best of utilities of blockchain is harnessing the fees. You are in United States, you want to buy Japanese yen, you go to the money exchange center and you exchange to Japanese yen and you pay the fee. You pay the swap fee, right? Crypto is this vast ecosystem of different currencies with a lot of swaps. A lot of those have very high volumes and not that much of liquidity. You are lucky with crypto because there is a lot of arbitrage increasing on all volume. So you want efficient way to harness the fees. And you don't want the fees to be restricted for the few, but with crypto, every user can become their own money exchange center, right? And I think that is really powerful because not many people does liquidity provision. To give example, what happened with the Trump coin, for example, if you were providing liquidity within the first 24 hours on the Trump coin, even within full range, you would double your money. The APR, the daily return on that was over 100%. Nobody, not many was doing that, right? But that was actually like you could buy Trump at 5, 2 billion, 10, whatever, do full range. Next day you would wake up and you would make equal amount of your pool in Solana fees. That was amazing hedge, right? If you held it longer, that would be more. And you have concept of concentrated liquidity. If you're familiar with that, that's not it can be also full range, but it allows you to concentrate your ranges, right? It's really difficult to do concentrated liquidity, and it's really difficult with concentrated liquidity to outperform full range because with concentrated liquidity, you need to constantly update your position. Every time you update your position, which is misconception, people still use the word impermanent loss. Every time you update your position with concentrated liquidity, that's permanent loss. Every time you claim your position back, you generate permanent loss. That's unchangeable. So you need to make concentrated liquidity really efficient. You need to update it smart. What it means, you cannot swap the tokens by updating your position. Imagine you do a pool concentrated liquidity with Bitcoin and USDC, and you get out of range. You get out of range. What many people do, they claim the money of one side, and then they swap one token to another to add it back, generating the slippage, which is often very high. And if you do it every day, there is a lot of loss occurring, right? So that's not best strategy. And there is one protocol that is on EVM called Charm Finance, and I believe that is the best model for essentially framework for every user to create a vaults to manage the liquidity, the concentrated liquidity safely. Charm Finance was forked by many. It was forked by Gamma Vaults. It was forked by Beefy Finance, that essentially made it permissioned, slapped 20% performance fees, and they still manage it bad because they actually still like use part of it and often swap. So there is no Charm Finance on any other networks than EVM. So our idea, like I really wanted to do it because I'm user of Charm Finance and I benefited from that because I was doing liquidity provision on Ethereum. My decision in was to make it on Cosmos because there was no tooling, there was nothing, and people randomly provide liquidity on Osmosis. So the idea was it will be useful. We created this implementation on Cosmos with a new maps because actually Osmosis use different maps for calculating the concentrated liquidity than Uniswap v3. But we did it, and it's not public beta yet. It all works. Everyone can actually access. So some people actually already accessed, and I'm very happy to show people how it works. Show to you.
Show me the public beta.
This is Magma Vaults. There is few things that is still missing. For example, which is this tab net APY, right? This tab is missing. This is the vaults created by the users, right? So this BTC aggro that is titled with TVL of roughly 50,000 is the vault created by the user. It's permissionless. Anyone, including you, can create a vault. You can create Bitcoin Chango vault, and you can make your community deposit to your vault. As the vault creator, you have opportunity to slap the additional fee on top, performance fee, between 0 to 10%. And Magma charges 5% total on performance, which I believe is really low and very competitive. The misconception with how people display, on Osmosis and others, people display APR, and they think that means they make a lot of money. But this APY we have at 0 because we work and soon we deliver, perhaps today. You need to always compare versus holding asset. Did you make money versus holding asset? You might have very high APR, but your revenue might be negative if your update prices were wrong, or you manage it bad, or you have a lot of permanent loss, right? So that's probably more relevant to users. Right now on Osmosis, if someone is the user, it is really difficult to deposit liquidity because they need to choose the ranges. Magma, for user who don't want to create their own vault, made it simple. Users can just go to the vault and choose I don't have these assets, but they can choose the asset and choose deposit. So that makes it as easy as Uniswap v2. You deposit assets and you forget about it. And then manager of the vault, that might be yourself, manages that, I would say, in their name. Either they can make money or they can lose money. What's this specific about Magma, how we do it? We create 3 different positions. We allow creation of 3 different positions. The position number 1 is concentrated range, which is very transparent. Part of your liquidity is deposited to the certain range. The other one is option on putting part of the liquidity that you have in the ratio of 50-50 into full range. If you get out of range, you ensure that you always have some other remaining token to create a new positions. And the third option is one-sided liquidity range. Imagine you deposit ratio 50-50 and you choose something like Bitcoin USDC, and you create a range of plus 12%, negative 10.7. You put 30% to the full range, and you create maybe also a limit range that was created here that is 18% spread. If this position moves out to this ratio right now, 57 ratio to 43, if I was to press rebalance right now because I'm the manager of this vault, fees gets claimed, all position gets claimed, and this ratio of 43 of some of this USDC gets matched with equal amount of Bitcoin. It deposits this in the base range. If in the ratio of 50-50, it deposits 30% because that's in the settings here. 30% gets deposited in 50-50 ratio to the full range, and the Bitcoin that is remaining is deposited as one-sided liquidity from the update price. So if the Bitcoin, we have more Bitcoin right now, so if the Bitcoin price goes up, the buy pressure on Bitcoin will be stronger than the sell pressure. It's a lot of information, but it's actually very trivial. There is never swap occurring. The update is essentially jumping out and jumping in. If you want to be a vault creator, let me see if I have some assets. So I'm going to show you how to create the vault. We still consider if we should make it permissioned. There is many people that will be perhaps confused, and we surely should have more qualified managers that will be more public and trusted. It's good for our treasuries, for example, to manage their own liquidity this way. Creating a vault is very transparent. You choose the button create a vault. You select the assets. I'm going to choose Osmo, and I'm going to choose USDC. It shows you which pools on this pair are created on Osmosis. I'm going to choose one pool of the existing that I believe will probably do well. So I'm choosing this one. I'm choosing the custom strategy. You can decide how much money you want to deposit to full range.
25%.
So you said 25. What spread do you want to have it for concentrated? Which spread? So it can be like 100% up, 50% down. It can be like 50% up, 33% down. So you can do it by dragging this. You can see here, you have the spread, or you can point it. So 1 is 0 spread, 2 is 100% spread, 3 is, well, so you can choose the spread. I can tell you so much. The wider you do, the safer it is. The tighter you do, the more dangerous of permanent loss it is. But the fees on wider are less. So like it's good to find a balance, right? Like if you say something, I can tell you like from my own experience if it's okay or not.
Let's do 25%. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I said. That's the base factor, right? Like so that's okay. That's relatively aggressive strategy, right? It's not that bad actually. What you want for one limit factor is when people usually get confused. It's essentially when you end up with more of one token. Let's say the price of Osmosis is $1, right? $1. If you end up with more USDC, it's gonna get deployed from $1 downward. So what limit spread do you want? I usually set it similar to base or actually twice as wide as base factor. So you can choose.
Why?
Because it's essentially limit factor allow buy more aggressive when you have more of one asset, right? I'm thinking how to do it. So imagine you end up with the ratio of you have 30% of Osmosis and 70% of USDC. and the price of Osmosis, let's say it's $1. If I choose, so I have 25% spread, it means the limit factor will get from $1 downward. So if the price of Osmosis now will decrease, you will purchase Osmosis in base factor, in full range factor that you have some, and also in this one-sided liquidity. So on the deep, you will purchase as more aggressive. Why? Because you want always your vault to aim for the 50-50. So that limit factor is more aggressive buying on the deeps or ups, because if you end up with more Osmosis, the limit factor will deploy on the price up to get closer to 50-50. But if you make it too tight, like 10%, imagine you end up with a lot of liquidity with one side, very imbalanced, especially in aggressive vault like this one. Small deep will purchase Osmosis so aggressively that you will end up imbalanced on the other side. And because of this, you might be occurring a lot of permanent loss because of the price fluctuations as you update. So you can choose the limit factor.
So what's a slightly less aggressive limit factor?
I would say maybe 40%. That would can be even double 50. That's like it's overall aggressive strategy, right? It's 25 spread. I usually go with intuition. It's very important to know, like many people will be like, okay, so what's the best time to rebalance? No one will know it. You would have to have some really complex machine learning type of Jim Simons to actually know what's the good range or what is the good time rebalance, right? Those are like the unsolved question, but you as the user can figure out yourself what's the best and compete with others. What limit factor you would like to put?
Well, let's go with this one.
Okay. Then you as the administrator, you have a chance to choose the admin fee between 0 to 10%. I usually go with 5 for myself because I will be managing this. So if people deposit to your vault later, they will be paying you 5% on the total swap fees that they generated.
Okay, let's do 5.
5. And Magma name, I'm just gonna do Chango. Osmo, that will be a little too long, but we're gonna get this. We charge $5 on the vault creator on creation to prevent the spam because it's cheap network. Then you just press create the vault, and the vault is created with these settings that we have chosen here. Once it's created, it sends you to the tab, and this is where you can deposit your assets, right? So I have some USDC. I'm gonna try to do equal ranges. I like to start with the ratio of 50-50, but that's not necessary. You know, if you deposit one-sided, if you deposit 100% just USDC, it means you will only start with the limit range, right? So it over time, it should balance as you keep pressing rebalance, let's say every day or every few days or every week. So once you deposit it, we now deposited, you can see it's in our vault. We have a little bit more of Osmo than USDC. To deposit into ranges that I chosen, you as the manager, you press rebalance. What happens during rebalance, you can actually see it. It creates the set of actions depositing into different ranges, and it's done. And you can see the ratio, as you see, a little bit more Osmosis and a little bit less USDC. Now you just wait. It's not good to rebalance too often because, as we spoke before, what happens during rebalance claims all positions, add them back. If you do it too often, every hour there might be a lot of movement. So if you keep doing that, there might be a lot of permanent loss occurring. From experience, probably it's best to choose a time-based rebalances, maybe every 24 hours, maybe every 3 days, maybe every week, and kind of forget about this because we are not really sophisticated machine learning systems that can predict when it's good. Some people speak about automatic rebalances, but you should probably know the best that would require like a third party, right? So maybe someone can build it, or maybe we will build on top of that third party where you can set up update the position every 24 hours because rebalance essentially means update, right? So I can show you how it works. Imagine 1 day passed, you just press rebalance. And what happens now? it's all claimed and added back the 3 positions. So there's actually a lot of thing happening on the back. And actually you can see that there was small change in the ranges right now. There was no fees, like it just calculates ranges a little different. I want to show you some example that I maybe have already here from existing vaults.
When you hit rebalance, did that perform an on-chain transaction or no?
Correct. I will show you in a moment. Let me show you, because it makes the concentrated liquidity so efficient, we are actually clocking very interesting, very high APRs in some cases. You can see this is my vault. I'm doing the atom and atom, right? I'm not going to rebalance now because I don't think it's like good time, but I'm doing upward of 200% despite it being stable pair. And the range is very tight, 0.8%, because it's stable pair. Right? For this type of pairs, I set full range at 0, which is probably obvious. For stable pairs, you don't want full range. The reason why we are doing such a high APR, the atom and atom liquidity is very inefficient. Its majority of this is on Astroport, and despite having 2 million of liquidity on Astroport, it has a full range or something close to full range there. They have different. So despite them having so much in liquidity, the atom to atom swaps, it essentially gets routed via my vaults because my liquidity is so much more efficient and I'm harnessing most of the swap fees, right? Even ST atom.
So what's the liquidity pool that you're accessing? Is it that market on Osmosis and you're
on Osmosis? This is Osmosis. All of this
is just
liquidity is Osmosis.
Okay,
Yes.
so you've basically created an interface for doing concentrated liquidity on Osmosis.
Correct.
Liquidity.
Correct. If you were doing this yourself, you would have to measure 3 different positions, deploy it on Osmosis, and all the time you would have to go back and take out the positions and add back if you would have to do it yourself.
Right. So you automate the process.
Correct.
With a fancy
so that's
UI.
What I'm saying. It's very trivial, extremely necessary.
It's the 2 buttons, the create vault and the rebalance buttons that make it super simple, easy.
Even ST atom and atom, it's out of range now because atom depegs quite often. This is not to worry. This issue of despite they deployed millions of liquidity from community pool, I'm generating APR on this pool from mid double digits to over 100%, because no one manages and no one cares about this deploy despite using millions of dollars from community pool liquidity, and I can do it better with my own money and I can outperform them by far. So for stakers, that probably give top results. Bitcoin, of course, it depends on the settings. You can see the APR here. So we show APR every day, and shortly, probably today, we update to how it performs versus holding asset. We display everything, how much fees you generated. For manager, we also shows you how much you as the manager generated, which you can claim. I want to show you some rebalance. As you can see, I created this Atom 1 BTC 1% pool. So I'm going to show you rebalance. And this is very wide pool because Atom 1 is very volatile. Very low liquidity, high volume. So I'm generating some crazy APR here. Yesterday going into multiple thousands, because not sure if you saw what happened yesterday. The price just went crazy. So let me show you.
Why did the price go crazy yesterday?
No idea. It went 400% up and little down. And as you can see, I'm still within perfect range because of the rebalances I did. So I'm going to press rebalance on this pool so you can see what is happening. I'm rebalancing, and the last rebalance was yesterday evening, which is quite often, but it's because I'm presenting this right now as well. And as you can see, as I pressed rebalance, from the last rebalance, we get the data on APR. It clocked at over 6,000%. We have fees here, and the position got updated. I'm going to show you the chain, what happened of the actions. I'm going to mean scan right now because that's what you were asking, if that happens on chain. That happens on chain. You can see this is the last rebalance that we did. So what rebalance does, You have event logs. This is the event logs, the contract rebalance that triggered, and the logs was like there was essentially 52 actions that happened within this one press of button.
Oh, wow.
Which was so it's quite complex contract, and we make it like really simple with just one press. This is perhaps the best model for the liquidity management. I do have like some really encouraging results on Akash USDC. So not everything is very good. I'm getting absolutely wrecked on Sui, but Akash, Penumbra doing quite well. So the Cosmos native assets, stable, does very well. And what does really well is the new one I deployed. So this is my own experiment. But I have this Osmo BTC, for example, and it's not even that tight. You can see the settings I set at 42% spread. By the way, your settings can be edited at any time. So when the market conditions change from more volatile time to less volatile time, you can tighten the ranges. And when the time is more volatile, maybe, and you think I rather would have wide ranges now, you can edit this at any time. So with the next rebalance, they get deposited in the new spreads or the same spreads that you had before. So I'm testing the Osmo BTC, and by my surprise, it's clocking really high IPRs now. But this is very, very, very fresh data. Why it's so good, right? I was mentioning to you the inefficient liquidity in Cosmos. I gave you example ST Atom. This pool, despite almost $5 million in liquidity, most of that liquidity is out of range. This doesn't make money.
Yeah.
With us, you can stay here all the time. That's probably me. Another example why I do quite good on Akash USDC. This shows you the data for all the pool, but you can see in the current range on the like this spread, there is not much actually here. And this Akash spread goes from like majority goes from $3 to $50. So despite it has a lot of liquidity, it says 700K, it's actually very little in here. Like there's barely any liquidity. All of that liquidity is essentially me for people spreading, swapping here. And again, you ensure that your position is updated even if you completely out of ranges as the one side from the current price with one simple click of rebalance. We make managing liquidity just very simple. I'm curious at what's the Osmo BTC because the fees are so high. So I'm curious what's the range here. But I think there is not much liquidity overall here. Most of someone put here. So the swaps on Osmo BTC, it's all get routed through this vault essentially. And as I said before, when you want to rebalance, you don't want to do it often, right? Maybe once a day. You don't want to have too aggressive spread. You need to find like good balance. And of course, because we will display versus holder, so imagine there will be a Don Kryptonium manager. We hope the names we will make verified and names where people can find it. So imagine there is Don Kryptonium and there is Chango. And maybe one day the Chango net APY is 50%, while Don Kryptonium on the same pool shows 20%. For the user, it gives information. Chango is better manager than Don Kryptonium. I better deposit to her vault. So I don't think everyone will be interested in being the vault manager because some of these ranges might be non-obvious for people who start, but it's best option for those who deposit liquidity. And this is great incentive for managers to actually compete to make it efficient. You don't want to be bad manager, right? Like because no one will deposit, and because in many cases that's your own money. It's easy to deposit money from community pool, like previously presented, because if it's not your money, you don't care about it. And that's what happens on those deposits of liquidity. But here you have to care. You have to care because you actually make money. You make 5% spread. So like I told you before, it's not good to rebalance often. As again, once a day, once 3 days, once a week. And hopefully there will be tooling that does this. There is perhaps better times and worse time to rebalance, but that requires some sophisticated machine learning. Some people might come with some algorithm, and those who can believe that, hey, I know how to rebalance, they can actually come and show me your results, right? You can outcompete others because we don't manage that. We give users tooling to create their own systems. So this is the one we created just like 10 minutes ago. Price already moved. So we actually should have made some fees already. But again, it's not good to rebalance that fast because there is no reason for us to do so. But we clocked at 360% APR within the period of 10 minutes, which is not much. It's just like we made half of the cent, 1 cent total, including Osmo. So that's it. Even I'm from the same wallet, it doesn't matter because deposit will be the same for everyone, right? Imagine I went to this page from Fresh Wallet and I see this Chango Osmo USDC and I see the performance is excellent. Because there is already set ratio in the vault, I want to deposit like some, and it will calculate the ratio now automatically. Only at creation of the vault, you choose the ratio. But now you have ratio of the pool. So as the user, I just press deposit and that's it. So that's probably like the easiest way for user to deposit liquidity. The one important thing, as I deposited right now, this deposit doesn't earn money yet. It will start earning money after the next rebalance because that needs to get deployed to 3 different ranges, right? So people sometimes deposit, either the vault managers will hit deposit right after they deposited, or they will have to wait till he does it next time. Many people get, what's this limit range? It's just one-sided liquidity, and the math is like really trivial. People try to make some complicated, there was some vaults in Cosmos, and some known actors of Cosmos would come and say like, oh, the shit they do with their vaults, it's next level. When someone tells you like this, like, that doesn't, like, there is no magic in those things. There is no algorithms like that people come out and tell you like, yeah, we print you excellent results. But what they do, it's like essentially have an intern that does what you can do yourself by updating the position. Don't want to say too much, but we hope we can expand. We want to be not only in one ecosystem, hopefully. Yeah.
You need to have as much access to liquidity as possible.
Yeah. But we would never do EVM because Charm exists on EVM. I don't really feel I would like to compete because we got inspired by them. So
makes sense.
I actually asked them if they plan to build on other ecosystems before. After I was said no, I reached to my friend and said like, I would like to build that. We then build that. It helps Osmosis because it will help all liquidity turmoil within ranges. It helps users to make higher APR. For managers, there's little incentives that they can make a little money and try their best. And even for me, it's built for me so I can manage my own liquidity and make money, essentially. So for me, it was like, I could even say I build this up for myself.
You yourself are the best test case, right? So if you have a user base of 1, you have demand.
Yeah. And I'm using my own money in there. Many people don't want to, I think, use their own money in their own products they build, which is it's quite common case in Cosmos. I rarely seen people using their own money in their own apps. It's usually community pools, I think. And we are a team of 3 people. We are 2 developers and me, the person who cannot write a line of code. Yeah.
Oh,
but
nice.
I hope you will use. You are very welcome to use. I'm happy.
I will use it. I plan to use it, yes.
If I would say at the start, because you don't want to get wrecked, go with rather wider range than tighter, and don't rebalance too often. People still like have problem maybe understanding how the permanent loss occur, because people think if I make fee, it means I make fee. It's actually not. Like again, like when the price go up and you rebalance, and then suddenly dumps rebalance, that means you essentially sold too early, bought too early. Even you made a lot of fees, you inefficiently bought and sold tokens in the pool. When someone starts, I would say go wide, and because you can update, you can slowly readjust. If you see you don't get out of ranges, your fees are maybe so like some people will go and do 10% spread, and it's like, that's crazy. And that also can be malicious, because imagine you do very tight spread on, like, let's say Bitcoin USDC, like 5% or something. You can go on Twitter and be like, look, I make 500% APR on Bitcoin pool. it doesn't mean you make that much money because you made a lot of fees. That's why we are implementing this API tab so people can actually see versus hold. Did you make money in relation to holding the asset? That's really useful. And that was always missing. People show high APR, but like that's not as relevant.
When are you gonna launch?
Everyone can access. If someone spots the link, they can actually find the link and go there. Our address will be magma.eco. That will be that's our domain that is bought. It's fair to say that the bugs will happen in the public beta. So far, like I haven't lost any money in the last 3 weeks on Magma, so it's okay. One of the first days, I was stupid. I lost $10,000 in Magma forever because I deposited Ethereum and wrapped Ethereum into pool, and there was actually bug, and it was missed during the audit that we did. That's why I actually think audits are a little silly, and we should stop that. I don't think they work, but that's kind of requirement of Osmosis. They will not let you deploy probably if you don't have audited code, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I think audits are LARP by large.
How did you lose the ETH and wrapped ETH via the bug?
It was issue with decimals. It was not calculating ETH decimals correctly in the code. So once I deposited my Ethereum, I could never withdraw it. Yeah, I was stupid because I should do just like $200, and I went and I deposit like total 3 Ethereum or something like that. I'm like, oops.
Well, great seeing you. Good luck with the Magma launch, and hope there are no more bugs. Hope you've debugged.
People don't lose money. Yeah.
Yes.
Take care. Bye. Enjoy your night.